The following is rated not safe for work. It contains strong language, adult situations, and lots of spoilers. Discretion is advised.
In the criminal justice system, cinematic-based offenses are considered especially heinous. The dedicated attorneys who investigate these villainous films are members of an elite squad known as the Reels of Justice. These are their stories.
Order, please, order. The Wheels of Justice is now in session. Judge Maynard Bangs presiding. Will all rise for the Honorable Judge Bangs.
Be seated. Welcome to the Reels of Justice. Today we are hearing the case of The People versus Mario Puzo's The Godfather, Coda, The Death of Michael Corleone. Mario Puzo's The Godfather, Coda, The Death of Michael Corleone, that's the last time I'm saying that entire title.
I'm not putting that all on the poster.
Is the 2020 director's cut of the 1990 American crime film, The Godfather Part 3. It wraps up the Godfather saga with an aging Michael Corleone seeking to extricate his family from the world of organized crime. For those of you unfamiliar with our court proceedings, we are here to determine if this film is guilty of being a bad movie. As always in this courtroom, films are to be considered excellent until proven awful, and the burden of proof lies upon the prosecution to prove beyond a shadow of a reasonable doubt that this film is guilty. Now, before we begin, I'd like to remind the members of this court that here within these hallowed chambers, we do not tolerate any kind of tired or hackneyed stereotyping of Italian Americans, Ryan. They are a proud and industrious people, and I won't have their good characters besmirched and befouled by the likes of you, Ryan. Now, Mr. Big Ben Haslar, you are appearing on behalf of the prosecution. You may begin your opening statement.
Just when I thought we were done talking about The Godfather Part 3, they pull me back in.
Who gave this man America?
It's a kazoo, you idiot.
Now they want... All right, I'll skip that. The definition of coda is a concluding musical section that is structured to round out, conclude, or summarize a musical piece. In cinema terms, that must mean a way of pulling a complete 180 and ignoring the themes that led to a piece's finale by saying, to hell with it. I'm going to cast my ill-qualified daughter and work out my own issues of coming face-to-face with my mortality and no longer being big man on campus while simultaneously making one last cash grab at a franchise that once catapulted me into stardom. The Godfather Part 3 remains an unsatisfactory conclusion to an otherwise fantastic story.
I object. It's not The
version.
Godfather 3.
Well, I'm getting to it.
This is the director's cut. Mr. Prosecution,
and the
please
recut version, The Godfather Coda, The Death of Michael Corleone, is even worse due to a structure, Michael Corleone, due to the structure of chopping up an already printed movie and moving the pieces around, throwing continuity into the air and torching that air with a flamethrower. It has all of the problems of the first cut and now brand new ones to slather on top of this crap sandwich. In essence, this film has already been found guilty in the court of public opinion, but it has thrown on some Groucho Marx glasses and tried to pass itself off as a different product in an attempt to bail itself out. But folks of the jury, I am here to warn you, look into the eyes of this festering film disguised before you, give it a kiss and say, I know it was you, Godfather Part 3. You broke my heart. You broke my heart!
Well, thank you, Mr. Haslar, and I will give it a kiss if it's an attractive cousin. Now, appearing on behalf of the defense is Mr. William Tokarsky. Please present your opening statement.
My opening statement. I have been enamored with the Godfather trilogy since it first appeared in the early 70s. I credit the original Godfather film with my desire to become rich and famous by being an actor.
Well, there's something to hold against it.
The current version of Coda, which is the summing up or as the Illuminati would say, that's it. That's all, folks. Coda, and you left and I'm going to say it, the death of Michael Corleone, which unfortunately there is no death of Michael Corleone in this version of the movie, whereas the other version did have a death. So, being that Corleone is such a revered character, I think it's great that this film has created like Gilligan's Island. It's always there. He's never died. Just like Gilligan never got off that damn island. I rest my case.
Well, don't rest your case yet. We have a lot of trial to go. But thank you.
The show wasn't called Gilligan Gets Off the Island, though.
Thank you, Mr. Tokarsky. Prosecution, you may present your first exhibit.
Okay, first I will talk about this film's failure as a sequel. It was the most anticipated sequel of the decade, and of course I'm talking about Part 3 in this case. Part 1 and 2 both won Academy Awards, racking up Best Picture, Best Actor, and Best Director noms. So when you make a sequel to a beloved series, there is an unwritten contract between creator and audience to fulfill the audience's unwritten expectations. We as an audience saw your films in the theaters, we bought your films on video. For you to use this franchise's good name and then spit in our faces with a story that is in contrast to those expectations is a direct insult.
Now, prosecution, I'd like to say that from the bench, it's the Coda that is on trial, not Part 3.
Yes, but the Coda is a recut version of Part 3. So some of these themes that I'll get to as its failure as a sequel to Part 1 and 2 will take play here.
Okay.
So now we have
but you're on thin ice.
Aging patriarch. Very well noted.
We have an objection.
He's using alternative facts that are not in evidence. He's giving his opinion and calling them facts.
Well, that is true. I mean, prosecution again. The history of 1 and 2. This sequel coming out in the 90s is not this director's cut coming out in 2020.
Well, here is the fact. We have an aging patriarch. Is that a fact? Do we have an aging patriarch that is nowhere near the menace of Michael in the previous films, nor is a mirror to Vito, Michael's patriarch in the first film? Is it not a fact that we have a cardigan-wearing Mikey, a man filmed with regret about his past, a man who wants his businesses to be pure, to heal the relationships between himself and his children? Look, if you want to tell that kind of story, that's fine, but not as a sequel to a series as iconic as The Godfather. As it is, making this film 20 or the re-edited film like 40 years later, I can't help but feel that there's missing stories here to lead me to where this film starts. It's Coppola grabbing the steering wheel and pulling the wheel sharply into a crowded field rather than making a straight continuation into that the previous films had the trajectory of.
I'm going to let the defense make a rebuttal here. Mr. Tokarsky, how does Michael in Part 3 stand up to Vito in Part 1 or Michael in Part 1 or 2?
Michael is who we're talking about here, and Michael makes the complete actor-performer's arc. He starts off as an innocent with no involvement in the family, no crime, a hero as it would be. And his character's arc follows to the peak of death and destruction, which has made him and his character infamous. But to continue the arc, he has to be the object of the death and destruction. And nowhere in 1 and 2 was there death and destruction like there was with a helicopter with a Gatling gun through the roof. My God.
Like it's friggin' Terminator 2 and not The Godfather.
Yes, give them some credit. And then the character has to continue to develop his arc all the way down to where he is the good guy again.
It's not much of an arc, though, when he starts that way at the beginning of the film. Like, it seems like ever since the credits rolled on the end of Part 2, he's been spending all this time trying to become now a better person. It fundamentally changes who Michael is. He's now very talkative. He's very reminiscent of what brought him here. Mikey's a guy who surprises his wife with a dumb, short silk scarf around his neck, pretending to be a chauffeur like it's a friggin' rom-com. Mikey's a guy who confesses his crimes to priests in a church that has full trays of orange juice just ready to be poured in the glass. No joke, they fetch it to you in under 10 seconds. And Mikey confesses his crimes that were in other movies, which... God help you if you haven't seen it. You'd have no idea who Fredo is, or even why Mikey would have even a smidgen of guilt. Now, we're leaning on the other films to know Mike as this sort of cold-hearted perpetrator of fratricide. That's brother killer to all you non-Dylan people in the audience. And a kind... instead of the kind-hearted old man who loves Tony Bennett and tries to make amends with his divorcee and swings by his house from time to time to look at stills of other Godfather movies. In a strange way, this...
Defense, do you care to comment on this? Is Michael Corleone too soft in this film?
Michael Corleone is finishing his life cycle, his character cycle in this film. He is no softer or harder than he was in the very first episode you saw him at the wedding in the first Godfather. He is the same kind-hearted, sweet young man, only now he's an old man with a scarf. And what they didn't show is his underwear was down around his ankles in that last scene with her. That's a well-known fact by us movie insiders.
Prosecution, do you like to speak to that? Those points made by the defense?
Well, even Michael's sister in this very movie gasps at times, like, why, Michael? That's not like you. She says that, and I agree. Yeah, it's not, based on what I've seen from the previous two films. And yet this film suggests he's trying to get back on the straight and narrow ever since then. I'd like to go back to your point of like the helicopter attack, though, if I may, because that tears me right out of the movie. It's more out of Terminator 2 than The Godfather. And while some ass is wailing about his lucky coat in this hail of bullets and broken glass, I can't help but wonder if the old gangster maybe considered a bomb as a better way of clearing the room of enemies and evidence he's involved in. No, instead we have a helicopter pummel the hotel with a torrent of bullets and then just fly away with nary a police chase. And not to mention this borderline military attack in a hotel in downtown Atlantic City is never heard of again.
Do you have any idea how close the international border is from
Atlantic City?
Yes. A helicopter make that in 4 minutes easy. So don't be making up things about the police. Maybe the Coast Guard, but not the police.
All right. That's a good point there, prosecution. I'm sure William has taken this helicopter ride himself.
I know it's close to like the Atlantic Ocean. I don't know that it's close to Canada. I don't know that like the police.
There's international
like,
waters.
Oh well, there's the ocean right there. Okay,
right.
Screw it. It's my vacation.
You're in international waters.
The helicopter probably took off from Trump Tower.
That makes sense.
Too.
Okay, I withdraw that point. So my next point is Sofia Coppola, who is sailing in right about now. Oh, here she is, Sofia Coppola, writing on the SS nepotism. She delivers a flat performance without even a hint of Italian in her speech, which wouldn't be so bad if it wasn't such a pivotal role. The character should be interesting. She's all about incest. That's interesting. But in the scene where she first comes on to her cousin, I should be filled with apprehension. But instead, the way she delivers the line, "Family always kisses," fills me with boredom. And always the perplexion as to why she would be interested into this dude with this fugly leather suit coat. The same guy who dresses all in brown, by the way, in Italy. So I guess he can just camouflage against stucco walls. Why Vincent would ditch Bridget Fonda for her is mind-blowing. Why are you doing this?
Defense, please enlighten the prosecution onto the greatness that is Sofia Coppola.
Sofia possesses an ability that very few actors have, and that is relative ability.
It's not what you know, it's who you know.
Correct.
No, let me correct you, okay? It's not who you know, it's who knows you. That's what gets you booked. Now, if you take the time to look at Sophia right now, she's still working strong. Her real desire was not to be an actress. Her real desire was to direct.
I wonder why.
She comes from a family of directors, of good directors. And she's working these days right now.
She's not behind the camera, sir. She is in front of the camera.
No,
except for Michael, this character
camera.
might be the secondary nucleus for the whole film, the linchpin, the connecting glue between all the different characters and plot lines. So these characters need to love Sophia, and we as viewers need to love her.
Order. Let's let the defense rebut that point.
Sofia Coppola was there to learn the art of directing from one of the greatest directors there were. And how better to learn the art than by being directed? Now, she continued on in her career, but she didn't act a whole lot, but she continues to direct to this day. She's got films out, two films in production right now. One was just wrapped in 2020. One was just wrapped in 2017, and she is credited as a director on those. So just like Tarantino likes to put himself in films, and he's not that great of an actor.
It was better than her.
Hey,
it's
objection.
the same way with Sophia. Sophia's real skill is behind the camera, but she was doing an apprenticeship to learn what makes and does not make, and she learned very quick what does not make a good character on the screen.
Question
by portraying that character.
Question from the bench, if I may, for the defense. Did Sophia not play Mary in the first Godfather film?
Actually, she played the damn baby, the being christened in that first Godfather film. And I never heard anybody complain about her in that film.
Is that Mary or is that Anthony that she's playing?
No, Anthony.
I believe that
how embarrassing. Okay.
It's a good thing Ryan watches movies.
Yeah, but she was a baby. Okay. Well, I knew she was a baby.
Well, have her off to the side running craft services or something like that. She doesn't need to be in front of the film.
Typical Big Ben.
This is the climax of the film. Her character is in the climax of the film, and what could have been her Oscar-winning death scene, she blankly cries out, "Dad, you don't have to do this, Dad." Bang, bang, Dad. Takes me out of the moment. Like, getting shot in the chest is akin to getting hit with a Nerf dart, if I'm to believe Sophia in this scene.
I can tell you exactly why she said Dad. It was in the script.
Checkmate.
I can tell you why she said Dad, but why did she say it? Dad, Daddy.
Could she have been asking her father for direction?
Yeah, exactly, and he didn't give it to her. Francis Ford Coppola once said, "There is no worse way to pay for your sins than to have your children share in your punishment." And on that count, I think we have 2 counts of guilty here, Your Honor.
Very, very interesting. Prosecution, any further points you'd like to bring up?
I have 2. The Immobiliare plotline. The story involving the Vatican seems somewhat convoluted. It's lazy writing using real-life events and the sudden death of John Paul I and the hanging of God's banker and various papal scandals that would tie the crime to Mikey seeing redemption in God's domain. But being unable to buy his way into forgiveness with the big dude upstairs, they sort of use this to sort of stitch it in. And I have no idea why so many people are interested in buying into Immobiliare. I get why Mike's interested into it. I don't know why the gangsters are. Maybe if your MacGuffin doesn't really make a ton of sense, you write a new MacGuffin. I don't know. Now we're sitting here in some sort of alternate universe where Pope John Paul I's real name was Lamberto and not Luciani like it was in real life. I guess because you don't want to take the time to make the implications that this film is making about his death, and you can't get that cool tag at the end that the events portrayed in this film are fictitious. Lamberto, by the way, wins with a near unanimous vote that was read aloud as each vote was counted, and yet the priest still acts surprised when the final verdict is read. and they kill the other guy in maybe the most ridiculous way ever filmed. This guy, Lucchesi, he's sitting at a desk. He has 2 pens, a telephone wire, a big-ass paperweight, but instead of... it's a warning to 4 eyes everywhere. This dude is stabbed through the neck with his blunt glasses, and it spews a blood geyser from it.
That is a good point. Defense, what do you have to say about the bloody spectacle made of...
Objection?
Applause. No,
the whole purpose of the Catholic Church's involvement in there was the actual idea of the publicity department. In the original Godfather, there was so much hell raised by the Italian Americans that they didn't have to advertise. Word of mouth had everybody running to go see it. So 20 years later, they says, we can't play that card again. So they turned around and picked the Catholic Church. And a lot of people pick on the Catholic Church ever since then.
It's fun.
Yeah.
Why don't we
do it right
now? We should do it more.
I still don't understand why so many gangsters are interested in it, but I'll move on to my last argument, which is the recut of Coda. So it cuts
so it's
out
your
pieces
last
of this
argument that's actually getting to the movie we're here to talk
It's summing up my whole case, if you will, my Coda argument.
I get it.
It cuts out the pieces of convoluted immobiliare takeover, which was weird to start with, as a way of saying, just trust us about the inner workings of this plot you probably didn't care about anyway. We're going to try and cut to the chase here. Coda starts with a scene that was a third of the way into the original film. Mm-hmm. Thus, the revelation that Mikey sold all of his interest in the gambling is even more out of the blue. As is the setup with how immobiliare can absolve him. It's just as if to say, just trust us, it does. And this gets jarring cut after jarring cut where we're into Mike's party and the music is starting mid-measure. Originally, this party was because he received an award and he uses those large donations to sort of springboard himself into the immobiliare deal. Now, I don't know. I guess this was in the work before in the bid to get to the point more quickly. But by showing us that Mikey has the superhuman ability to serve cake on a platter for his ex before the cake is even cut. Yeah, brilliant editing there, Coppola. Using this bit, using the first bit of violence as a marker, it's at 35 minutes in The Godfather Part 3 and 34 minutes here in Coda. So I'm really not sure what this re-editing is getting us here. We're still at the same length. And you know what else is brilliant editing in this film? We have Mikey seemingly laying in his deathbed in New York in one scene, and then one jump cut later, he's in Sicily as they try to maneuver out of a convoluted business deal plot. While we see Mikey's son carrying a drawing that he made for his dad in a previous film, despite the fact that his dad hadn't returned this drawing to him yet. It's in a scene later. I guess this dude just carries around his children's drawings with him all the time now. Neat. I guess I hope the revenue that you're getting from Coda is worth it because it doesn't make sense. The editing is choppy as hell. I never know where Vincent is in that opera. He's in the box. He's out of the box. Looks like it. Now, wait, he's clearly walking down outside. Oh, wait, now he's laughing at someone biting his ear on stage and he's laughing. Haha, yeah, that's the character I'm based on. Did y'all catch that? And as for this quote-unquote new ending that is also lamer, the version cuts out, as the defense brought up, the titular death of Michael Corleone, and is now him reminiscing about the loves and loss and hardships that went with his life that brought him to this point. Now it's all about his daughter, I guess, and a quick Italian lesson about how someone has a long life or whatever. And it doesn't show him actually die either. It's the actual death. In the death of Michael Corleone is now left to your imagination. How many levels of insulting can you bury me under? You're charging me more to watch a recut version of a film I saw, only to deliver less than what I already had. To my knowledge, the only real addition to this film is the blood geyser spewing out of Lucchesi's neck, which just adds more ludicrousness. Guilty, 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 and the prosecution rests.
All right. Defense, I'd like to ask, if to speak on some of these differences that the Coda version brought up from the original theatrical release in 1990.
Well, here's the thing. Someone my age, having seen the original release 20-some years ago, I don't remember a damn thing about it. So when I watched Coda now, it was with fresh eyes. it was a new story to me. Now, as far as the complaints about the edits, I think you probably are my opponent here at the prosecution. Probably thinks films are filmed from the beginning to the end, and the death scene is the end. This is not so.
Objection! It flowed in the original cut, though.
Overruled. I agree with the defense. You're stupid. Defense, please continue.
The film is made in small pieces that require later to put it back together with an editor. An editor does that. Now, just like the idea of you looking at cake cut. Have you ever been to an Italian ceremony and you really think there's just one cake?
It was clearly the same cake, sir. Watch the still frame.
It's not clearly the same cake. Lots of cakes around. Yes, there was. Speaking of cake, there was a film I was in with pound cake, and on screen you just saw 1 pound cake. But in reality, there was a dozen pound cakes there because we shot the scene more than once. And the editor picked what he liked best, and he put them in the order that he liked best. Now, go look and see who edited Godfather 3 compared to who edited Godfather Coda, The Death of Michael Corleone. Now, you seem to think that Michael Corleone died in Godfather 3. I can't tell you how many times I have fallen out of a chair and passed out on the ground, and I did not die.
Oh, you're right. I feel really bad about myself. Thank you.
Stop the trial. Give that man the $10,000.
I might have to agree. I don't think you can beat that one, Big Ben. That is a very good point.
I fell out of my chair with that argument, sir.
And you didn't die, did you? So it was your imagination that had him die. And your big complaint about Coda is, I have to use my imagination too much.
So maybe the death of Michael Corleone is the death of his character.
I think the idea of not the physical body Michael Corleone, but it is the character, the legend, the badass killer that nobody messed with. This is what died, not that little old man with a 60-some-year-old man with a crew cut.
Hooah! You're gonna miss my hooah.
You said that already.
Say it
But you gloss over the great parts. That film has iconic music in it, music that stirs emotions among them.
Music that was in the first 2 movies.
In my open, and it was in the Coda as well, and it tied it all up in a pink ribbon, more or less. Now, I alluded earlier to the fact that I was inspired by the first Godfather, and I'm going to test you guys. When the first Godfather film, where Vito gets shot, what was he doing when he got shot?
He was playing with his kids.
He had an orange peel in his mouth.
No, you're right. No, he when he got shot, he was buying fruit.
Oh, I'm sorry.
From a fruit vendor. Am I not correct?
Yes.
Correct. Yes. And you remember that now, and you see that fruit vendor's face. That actor's name is Conrad Yama, okay? And that was his first big break. From that point on, he made all kinds of films. So I says, hell, if that guy can do it, I can do it. So I looked for a film that I could be the fruit vendor in some film. And thus, when I die, I would be immortal, just like Conrad is immortal, because you all see him. You can see his face. Unfortunately, my role in Too Many Cooks has it now that whenever anyone wants to think of me, they think of a maniacal killer with a machete. So sometimes it's. Oh, but I digress. I'm sorry.
Who
This
wants
is
to
not
live
where-
forever, right?
Yeah, who wants to live?
I think it's a
forever?
heartwarming tale. William, do you have any final points you'd like to make before you rest your case?
There are so many memorable characters that were included in this film, but there were some memorable characters that were not included in this film. And it left your imagination to figure out how these people's lives continued. This is a recut that you can't refuse. You know,
I'm not paying
just
them
when
for me to imagine things.
I could do that at home.
I know.
just when I think I was out, they pull me back in. A quote that will live forever. It is probably the most known quote of the Godfather trilogy.
It's a quote that I can't refuse.
One of the greatest things to watch is when they took the 3 Godfather movies before Coda and put them together in chronological order and did a 12-hour marathon on HBO or Showtime, one of them, where there were so many scenes in there that were never seen in any of the movies that were actually made air, because they do cut scenes, okay? But there is so much to share. There is so much with these arcs. It's and the main thing that comes out of this last film is the wealth. The wealth is your children. And Michael lost his wealth. I rest my case.
Oh, thank you very much. We will. Both sides have rested their cases, so the attorneys will now present their closing arguments. Mr. Haslar, you may begin.
After seeing the third Godfather film, Coolio famous had to rewrite his lyrics from "they've been spending all their lives to living in a gangster's paradise" to "they've been spending most of their lives living in a gangster's paradise." Because if you've seen all 3, there's no way you've spent all of your life in one. If Vito were still around, he would ask, "What have I done to make you treat me so disrespectfully?" Oh, Lordy, my Vito needs work. Never mind. Scratch that. If Winona Ryder or some other talented actress were in the linchpin role of Mary Corleone, we might have had a better film. Ditto if Robert Duvall returned to help bridge the gap in that near 20-year wake between the 2 and Coda. Or if we even had a film between these 2 to sort of help us explain why Mikey had this 180-degree turn from ordering assassinations to trying to be a legitimate moral man. Maybe if we didn't have the film spend a weird amount of time to correct me on my understanding of who invented the telephone, it would have been more worthwhile. But I think you've heard enough of me telling you about how this film sucks. Let's listen to famed movie critic and very talented host of the Coolness Chronicles, Ryan Luis Rodriguez, as he skewers this film. Roll the tape, defense.
Francis Ford Coppola is no stranger to revisionist history, and with this re-edit, he attempts to remold The Godfather Part 3 as a flawed epilogue instead of a bad conclusion to an otherwise perfect trilogy. And I wasn't impressed with a lot of it, but the last 30 minutes are easily the best thing that Coppola did in the last 30 years and can stand up to some of the best moments in the first 2 films.
Shoot. Cut the tape. Cut the tape. Okay. Well, that was embarrassing. Clearly, I was thinking of a different Ryan Luis Rodriguez, host of the Coolness Chronicles. Apologize. Just strike that from your minds. The prosecution rests.
Thank you very much. Mr. Tokarsky, you can now present your closing arguments.
The truth. The death of Michael. It's been a summation, and it tied it all together. It actually is a shorter, concise, more complete ending of Mario Puzo's story. And like I said, forgiveness and your children and the damn music. You can't ask for anything more than that. And I hope they don't have a Godfather 4.
I'm pretty sure they won't.
Here.
Thank you both. Members of the jury, Mr. Robb Maynard, Mr. Dylan J. Schlender, and Mr. Ryan, just when I thought I was out, they pull me back in, Luis Rodriguez. You have all heard the facts concerning this case. It is now up to you to determine if this film is guilty of being a bad movie. The bailiff will escort you to the deliberation room to render your verdict.
You'll notice we didn't ever talk about the Scottish gangster films in this courtroom, because each one is an impeccable piece of art.
I just want to point out that there are no R's in that nickname, but okay, they can't all be winners. Dylan, what are you thinking?
Oh, thank you, Ryan. You know, I really gotta say, I had never seen Godfather Part 3. I've seen the first two. I really liked Godfather 1. I understand why everyone likes Godfather Part 2 a lot. Like, you know, the Cuba scene and things like that, the parallel stories. But I kind of lean towards liking Godfather 1 a bit more. So I was very excited to watch this one. And, you know, I gotta say, it hit all the right notes for me. And Williams' arguments, the stuff he was bringing up about the metaphorical death, you know, us falling out of our chairs, you know, not actually killing us, you know, it's like, I that resonated with me, and I really appreciate that. I do appreciate some of the stuff Ben was saying, though. It's like, this is a movie that leans so heavily on the first two.
I mean, before we get too deep into what we appreciate, Ryan, what changed from Godfather Part 3 to the Coda?
So, as far as I understand it, because I have also not seen 3.
I have.
I've listened to the audio commentary, but I've never seen 3. I saw Coda for the first time this year, or maybe at the end of last year, and that was the first time.
So, besides, I mean, I did some one. The Coda is 4 minutes shorter.
That scene is moved to the beginning.
Like the opening scene that you see in Coda is like 45 minutes into the movie, into the original theatrical cut. I think you're introduced to Andy Garcia's character sooner.
Yes, and he doesn't die at the end, Michael.
And then Michael does not, you know, in the theatrical release, Michael's sitting in a chair in Sicily, slumps over and dies. In this,
which is one of the most mocked moments of the
it's not a great scene. And in this scene, in the Coda, he is simply rocking in the chair, and then it cuts to a scene saying that, you know, Sicilians wish each other long lives, and Sicilians never forget. Essentially meaning that Michael is not going to die here. He is going to live many, many years with horrible memories and grief, which I think is a more powerful
a spiritual death.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think William hit the nail on the head when he said the Michael Corleone that died was the gangster, the killer, the most feared badass guy. That's who died. It wasn't the old guy with the...
I'd like to disagree with you briefly. The Michael that died was the sweet, innocent Michael that we see a little bit of in Anthony, and we see a little bit in Godfather Part 1. That sweet death of Michael, that he died years ago. And Part 3 is Michael in Part 2 trying to become Michael in Part 1 again, and he can't. He can never reclaim his innocence. So the death is, you know, the spiritual, the soul.
I disagree. You think
you're wrong.
The death, right? You're saying it's like the finalization of the death of who he was in the first one. I like Williams.
No, I disagree.
This is him. This is the badass gangster dying. He's not going to continue. He's not going to continue being a badass. This didn't harden him at all.
No,
like
Sofia
that's what you're saying.
Coppola's character dying is his death. That is his spiritual death, because his child is paying the price for his sins. So that is the universe's way of saying, you have so much to atone for that I'm going to start taking things from you. I'm not going to take your life, because what would you learn from that? I'm going to take what you love.
My point is that if with Sophia, right, her character, Mary, if she hadn't died, I think there was a chance for redemption for Michael. Michael could maybe reclaim back what he was initially. And with her final death, her final grasp, any chance he has of redemption or atonement, all of it's gone. He's just a hollow husk of a man waiting to die.
I agree with the second part.
Earlier, though.
It is the crossing of the...
It is basically what I said.
It's the moral crossing of the Rubicon. You can't go back.
Well, and here's the thing too. Like Diane Keaton says, it never ends. I mean, he's going to like this is what takes the teeth out of him being a mobster. Is his daughter dying?
Yeah.
That's what we're saying. That's what William said, and that's what William.
I don't know that it's going to stop him from being a mobster. I think it's what's going to stop him from having any positive experiences going forward, because every single day he's going to have to think about that.
Yeah. Now this case is tough. I mean, neither of you guys have seen the actual theatrical cut. I've seen the theatrical cut. I remember falling asleep.
No, I've only seen the Snyder cut of Godfather 3.
Yes, this is the Snyder cut.
So it's 9 hours long?
Yes, the Coppola bros are coming out after this.
Oh,
but
it's terrible, really. They're all over the place.
You know, I have seen the theatrical. I think some of the choices in here are better. But I mean, the things that the people hated about part 3, they're going to still hate about Coda, right? I mean,
I
you're
don't
still
know that
going to
anyone could hate this and then look at the Coda and go, well, I was totally wrong. That's
right.
just not what this it's not that kind of revision.
Right, exactly. No, it's there's some scenes moved around, it presented in different order, but it's largely the same movie. There's not much new footage. In fact, there's I think potentially less. It's just literally a re-edit of it.
The thing that's important to understand, though, is that this is not a movie he wanted to make. He made this because Tucker, the man in his dream, bombed so badly that no one would finance his next movie.
Yeah,
and
you're
Paramount
talking about
said,
part 3.
If you want to make, no. Before part 3, he didn't want to make part 3.
Right.
He said he was done, and Paramount said, well, we can finance your next 2 movies if you do this for us, or you don't make a movie for the next 10 years. And he said, okay,
right.
fine,
But once he made part 3, now 30 years later, he did want to make Coda because he wanted some redemption.
Him an offer he couldn't refuse.
Shut up, Ben. Get out of the jury room.
The response to it was so toxic that even though he got a nomination for Best Picture, the legacy of it was, oh, this movie's fucking terrible, and his daughter's a terrible actor, and blah, 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 blah. And he wanted to correct that.
Here's a question for you, Ryan, and possibly Rob, I'm curious. So Sofia Coppola being bad in this, is it exacerbated because she's the daughter?
Yes.
Or if it was just any other bad actress,
she's bad in the movie
as much?
But we would not, I'm not going to put myself in that category, but the people that are angry about her performance would be less angry if she wasn't Coppola.
Exactly. Like, you know who else is bad in this movie? Sonny's wife is terrible throughout this whole movie.
George Hamilton's fucking bad in this movie.
Andy Garcia is bad.
George Hamilton's in this because
I mean, I know why.
Right.
I know why that character's there. I just
lots
don't
of
know
people
why
are
he's
bad in
George
this movie.
Hamilton.
Andy Garcia is pretty bad in this movie. He shouldn't have been shouting the whole time. He should have been intense Andy Garcia. Then he's good.
Yeah,
when he's
I'm pretty sure I
intense.
picked up Andy Garcia. No offense, Andy. I know you listen to the show, but you just don't strike me as the tough.
And so, I mean, lots of people are bad, but yeah, Sofia Coppola got it way too hard because of nepotism. For me, if it wasn't for Coppola nepotism, we wouldn't have Nicolas Cage. So I'm all for Coppola nepotism. I've got no problem with it.
And we wouldn't have Sofia Coppola as a director. She wouldn't get to that point.
Exactly. Even if she didn't act in this movie, she might not have ever been able to direct.
She would not have been given that opportunity. There's no way in hell that a woman will get that opportunity.
Which is going back to some of William's points that he was making. He was making a lot of interesting kind of meta points about the impact of this movie, and that's definitely one of them. It definitely gave Sophia the opportunity to kind of springboard
all those
into her own
wonderful films she directed, which we haven't named one of. So,
Lost in Translation, The Virgin Suicide.
Virgin Suicide.
Thank you.
Beguiled.
I did not like Lost in Translation, but
that's not what's on trial. So let's go. I'll go first on record for my verdict. I remember falling asleep in the first time I watched the movie, but I didn't mind it the second time. I don't know how much of the edits really helped that, but I don't think I can sit here and find any movie with Eli Wallach guilty at all, so I'm going not guilty.
So you're going to say that one episode of Studio 60 on the Sunset Strip he was in was not guilty?
Correct.
That's not a movie.
Yeah, but it should be on fucking trial.
But he who finds Tuco guilty and leaves Tuco alive, he knows nothing of Tuco.
Dylan, what you thinking?
All right, I mean, not to take the air out of the balloon here, but I think this movie did a lot of things right. If you know it's a drama going in, I like a lot of the Catholic iconography. I like the end with the opera. There's a lot of stuff it does well. I thought Ben brought up some very good points. It does lean very heavily on the first two. We are looking at a completely different Michael that we didn't get to experience any of this change with him. We're just introduced to him being this new man. So, I mean, even with those deficiencies, it's like, is it the weakest Godfather movie? Almost certainly. Is it a bad movie? No, it is not. And so I will say not guilty.
Interesting. Guilty.
Not, that's not true, Ryan.
Can we just play the clip again of Ryan endorsing?
Ryan, if you be honest about this, I'll make you an offer you can't refuse.
So either my my signature or my brains are going to be on this podcast. Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Okay. Still guilty because Ben put up a damn good fight.
He did. It was a good. It was a good case. It was a good case with a very biased judge.
Clearly, I don't think it's actually guilty. I fucking recommended it.
Just
like
trying
a
to
month
spare
ago.
poor Ben's feelings, and Ben did
Not
do a
sparing
good
feelings.
job.
He put a hell of a case up for a movie that I like. Or not. Well, I mean, like I said when I recommended it, the last 30 minutes are the best thing that Coppola did in the last 40 years. But
better than Jack?
Yeah, a lot better, and almost as good as Twixt. That's a deep cut. But as always, I vote for who puts up a good fight. And Ben put up a hell of a fight. So guilty.
He really did. I respect that vote, Ryan. I respect it way more than anything Robb's done this entire case.
Oh, me too.
That said, let's go tell that very handsome judge.
Damn right. Mr. Foreman, have you reached a verdict?
We have, Your Honor. In the case of the People versus Mario Puzo's yada 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 goes on like that. We find the defendant not guilty of being a bad movie.
The verdict is so rendered. However, I would like to issue a stern warning to The Godfather Part 3 if it is to undergo yet another director's cut to make sure that its title isn't longer than the actual film. Court is adjourned.
Hey, yo, it's Marlo Marinara coming at you from the Gabagool Gazette. Hey, William, you won this case. How do you feel, Paisan?
I feel good. I feel good because the movie was a winner. The movie made money. Coppola went on to make some great things. Wine out of his winery. And
that is true. He did do that.
And a little Hollywood insider for you folks. The main reason Paramount had him go back and recut that movie 3 into Coda was, and you might want to get a pencil and write this down, at 1 hour, 16 minutes, and 34 seconds of Godfather 3, there is a scene with a man chewing a chewing a toothpick in the crowd. And that actor is Ron Jeremy, famous, well-endowed porn star. And that was the reason they recut that movie, to get that scene out of there.
I'll admit that didn't come up in my research.
Hey, Big Ben not coming up. Makes sense. Oh, but hey, that's all we got from you, William. Thank you so much. That's an exclusive for the Gabagool Gazette. You have to read about it online. Ben, get over here, you pizzone. You lost this case. You bombed. How do you feel?
Well, I'd just like to say to two jurors, Robb and Dylan, you're my brothers. I love you, but don't ever take sides with anyone against the family again. Ever.
Oh, wow. Cryptic threats. Here we go. I do not appreciate that. All right. Hey, whoa. That's all we got for the Gabagool Gazette. I forgot if I was Johnny Manicotti or Marlo Marinara. It don't really matter. Let's go back from the studio for post-trial analysis.
We're going to keep getting death threats from the Knights of Columbus, aren't we?
So, is Marlo Marinara Marlo Thomas's brother?
Please don't ask him any questions about that. William,
you see, when I was getting into character for Marlo Marinara, I thought it was very important that I not only thought about him, but the entire family around him, because there is so much that he has to offer for the Gabagool Gazette.
Shut up. William, great job. Great case.
Sir.
Good job. You really brought the thunder on that one.
From
Hilarious.
Down Under.
From Down
Hilarious.
Under. So, William, what's been keeping you busy? What have you been working on lately?
Aha! I've been working, actual working on a new TV sitcom that's going to be on Fox this fall. We're talking about the big Fox TV,
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
and it's called This Country. It is a remake of a British sitcom, something similar to what happened with The Office.
Mm-hmm.
We filmed it in North Carolina, and it's basically a mockumentary. It's a film crew that follows some young post-high school kind of folks in their daily lives and their surroundings around them. The two main stars are unknowns, but the supporting cast consists of Sean William Scott from the American Pie series, and
Love him.
Nice.
and Aya Cash. He plays a priest. Aya Cash, and I play Glenn. I play a dim-witted curmudgeon with a slight drinking problem.
Oh,
I feel
You're pointing
attacked.
me. I'm going to sue you for infringement for using my likeness.
I will be in 12 of the 14 episodes. So
that's
this,
fantastic.
That's
this,
awesome.
this is a big springboard for me.
No, it's very good. Did they tell you around when we should expect it to come out? I mean, besides fall.
September sometime. Nothing official. I just did a what they call additional dialogue recording, where you record some things. Maybe there were sounds in the background, or they didn't pick something up, and it really looks good. Yeah, I got to see some of the footage of 2 of the episodes, and I give you a teaser now. Episode 106, which they may change the numbers, but it's where I learn computer skills. And I find this lovely young lady in Lithuania. And you guys, do you guys know that in Lithuania, for them to be able to get money out of their, if you want to get a plane ticket to come visit me, but for them to get money out of their bank account, they have to put in $3,000 first.
Oh, I think I did
It's no
know
longer
that. I
based
got
on me though, so
the case.
Prince I met once.
Yeah, the case is a lot like a Nigerian prince. That it's a
Well,
lot like
actually,
that in Nigeria.
the headquarters was in Nigeria. Strange that you mentioned that.
That is weird. That is weird.
It's a very funny show with a terrific cast. It's listed on IMDb right now. If you want to look it up, but yeah, it's
We'll
fun.
check it out. You mentioned these unknowns. I mean, tell us a little bit about, do you know any more of their backgrounds, a little bit of their characters?
Okay. Sam, the character's name, young man by Shrub is what he's called. His father used to drink a lot of bush beer, so when he came around, they called him Shrub.
That's funny.
I like that.
They called him Beer.
I was going to go with Bush. I'm glad I was wrong.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's why you don't write TV shows, Ben.
I know.
So, as I was saying, Sam Straley, he plays Shrub, and he's best known for Hala in 2019, Once Upon a River, and Code Switch. Like I say, they're not real big names. And
Yet.
And the girl's name is Chelsea Holmes, and she plays a character, Kelly. And it's their interactions they're cousins. But Sean William Scott and Aya Cash are the bigger names, and we've got people like Justin Linville out of New York, Taylor Ortega from Kim Possible, Jason McDonald, one of my acting instructors. How's that for a deal where you show up on a TV series with a guy who gave you your first acting lesson? But I think it's going to be very, very funny. No, I recommended him, but she's
awesome.
Oh, I'll tell you what. She was probably the best person to work with there. I am an old man, and I don't remember things like I used to. and I'm hard of hearing, so I don't hear as well as I did. And I had a scene where she says something, that's my cue, I jump in, and I couldn't hear it. There was an outside thing, street noise. And to pull me in, she said, "Hi, Lynn." In other words, she's just a great person to work with, I enjoyed that quite much. But yeah, it's a fun show, fun people. Jenny Bix and Paul Fig are the executive directors. Paul Fig is the guy with Bridemaids, and Jenny Bix,
creator of Freaks and Geeks.
Yeah, and Sex and the City. She wrote for Sex and the City. She's the showrunner. I signed on.
You might say they're the real deal.
Yeah, they are the real deal. I signed on for 6 episodes and ended up doing 12. So I think they like
Nice. Our podcast actually works a lot like that. You sign up to do 1, but you come back 4 or 5 more times.
We pull you back in.
There was one scene where we were doing an intervention for someone, and rather than have me remember a long list of dialogue, I just stood up and read my intervention letter.
Oh my God.
Bringing a lot of realism to the
yes,
role.
Exactly.
Well, that show sounds super fun. I can't wait to check that one out, and that's on Fox. We'll check it out in September. And
The Big Fox.
The Big Fox. Yes, exactly. Not the evil fox.
No. Oh, God.
The less
I mean,
evil
they're all
Fox.
the evil fox.
Yeah.
But
Well, thank you. William, we always ask our guests to recommend a movie that you think our listeners should check out. So what is a movie that you think people should check out?
Well, I'll tell you what, a little-known movie that I like is You're a Big Boy Now. It's an awakening, I guess. How would you stand?
1966, comedy, coming of age.
Yes, coming of age. That's what I was looking for.
A New York public library clerk leaves home and meets a go-go dancer.
Yes.
How do you not mention the go-go dancer?
Oh, it's the Ryan Luis Rodriguez biopic.
I just thought it was a great movie to see. An unknown movie, I should say,
Well, it's funny you bring it up because it's also directed by Francis Ford Coppola.
Okay.
oh, wow. Check that out.
But since you have such a broad audience listening, there's another film that I also recommend, and it's called Tragedy Girls. And it stars Brianna Hildeberg from Deadpool, and Alexandra Shrift from Straight Outta Compton, Josh Hutcherson, William Tokarsky. Just got a great cast.
Wow, William Tokarsky.
Yes.
Oh, I will have to check that one out.
Love that guy.
They're both great in that movie, too. Alexander Shipp and Brianna Hildebrandt.
Yes.
And William Tokarsky, Ryan. Come on, man.
Don't bury the lead here, Ryan.
It never got big distribution. It didn't get picked up big.
It's on Hulu.
Yeah, it's streaming right now. You can watch it. The way I got cast in this film was a friend of mine was up there casting extras up there, and they had a production meeting. And they said in the production meeting, we need to have somebody to play the creepy janitor. And my friend, man's name, Robb Pendleton, called up my IMDb page, slid it across the table to the director. He looked at it and he says, too many cooks. You think we can get him? He says, yeah, I think you can get him.
After all, Rob Maynard's busy.
Here's
how
the
rude.
Easter egg. Here's the Easter egg. In the movie, I'm a janitor, high school janitor, and I'm doing my high school janitor stuff. And while I'm doing my high school janitor stuff, I'm whistling the theme song from Too Many Cooks.
Oh, that's awesome.
And the story is about the two young girls are social media experts kind of thing. And they discover a serial killer, capture him, and take over doing the serial killing themselves.
Ooh, okay.
That sounds
Nice.
While using the tragedy to make themselves into social media superstars.
Correct.
Nice.
One of the people that they kill is Josh Hutcherson. So yeah, it never made it big. I thought it was a great film. I really enjoyed it. I worked on one that I really thought was a turkey. It was called Jumanji: Welcome to the Jungle, and that some bitch grossed $1 million.
Well, it had
But
a
who am I
favorite
to
of Big
say?
Ben Haslar in that film.
Well, it had the cake. The
Kevin
cake
Hart.
scene was key to it.
The cake scene was a big part of it, and a big part of
I'll
the
tell you
editing.
what, they used it in the ads. It was the trailer, that scene.
Oh yeah, the cake.
Yeah.
No,
Yes,
yeah,
cake makes
Old
him
cake
explode.
that is true. Cake is excellent.
He can't have it
No,
and eat
it
it
makes
too.
him explode.
I'll give you an insider thing. I believe they're going to make another Jumanji after the last one. And it's going to go back to the roots of the original, where the characters from the game come to the real world. I'm planning to come to the real world with that one.
Oh,
Nice.
well, we would love to have you in the real world. Anytime you'd like to join us too, we'd be happy.
This
to
Ouija
have
board
you.
we're using is a little tedious.
It has been tedious. Big Ben, what is your recommendation this week?
I'm going to recommend one of the most recent crime movies I saw that wasn't The Godfather. It's Bong Joon-ho's Parasite's fame, Memories of Murder. Memories of Murder reminds me a bit of Zodiac more than it does The Godfather, but it follows police detectives trying to apprehend a serial murderer in a South Korean town. It wouldn't be a Bong Joon-ho film without some commentary about how the government's somehow failing its people in some way. So it features a detective who believes he can determine a person's guilt by just looking into their eyes as he drop kicks his way into an ending I did not see coming.
I love it.
Ben,
No,
the next time you defend or prosecute, you need to do the entire thing in that voice.
Yeah,
Memories of
exactly.
Murder.
I'm always comforted by knowing that everyone else's governments are failing them too. For my recommendation this week, I'm going to pick another mob movie that really sticks out in my mind, and that's 2002's Road to Perdition. Set in 1931, it features the always affable Tom Hanks playing a stone-faced enforcer for the Irish mob, which just goes to show you, Ryan, that organized crime is not always the exclusive realm of Italian Americans. The Irish mob boss is played by Paul Newman, salad dressing king of the Midwest, who puts out a hit on Tom Hanks' whole family after Hanks' 10-year-old son, played by future Superman Tyler Hoechlin, witnesses some hardcore mob shit being committed by Newman's ne'er-do-well son, Daniel Craig. Thus, Hanks must now put all his mob enforcer skills to the ultimate test in order to protect his family from the very same killers and murderers with whom he used to associate, including a particularly demented, camera-obsessed assassin played by the incomparable Jude Law. It's directed by some guy named Sam Mendes and is apparently based on some kind of novelized picture book. If abhorrent violence presented in an aesthetically pleasing manner is your thing, this film features a beautiful scene with a Tommy gun in the rain that gives just about any other scene depicting murder in cinematic history a run for its money.
Now, you're right, Rob. It's not just Italian Americans. It's Italians from Italy, too.
You're right.
Wow.
Ryan, you get to go next. What's your recommendation?
My recommendation is another Francis Ford Coppola film, one less traditional and more experimental and hallucinatory. It's called Rumblefish from 1983. It was a film that held no interest for me until an episode of 80s All Over, but I was a fool because it's right up my alley with a gorgeous black and white cinematography, an avant-garde percussive score from Stuart Copeland. It is the dreamlike companion piece to both Coppola's The Outsiders and Koyaanisqatsi, which he distributed. It is not streaming for free anywhere, but you should pick up the Criterion Blu-ray.
Damn right. Dylan, what you got? Recommendation.
All right. So if you're watching The Godfather Part 3 or the part Coda, Attack of the Corleones, and you want something else that's weighty and heavy, I'm going to recommend The Mission from 1986, starring Robert De Niro and Jeremy Irons. It's about Jesuits trying to protect a small village in South America from Portugal. It is a fantastic movie. The soundtrack is the best soundtrack a movie has ever had. Period. Full stop. No qualifier.
Really a high
no qualification.
bar.
And it meets that bar. Listen, if you only listen to the soundtrack, you will be a better person, but watch the whole movie because it's fantastic.
Now, Dylan, you cut out, but you said Portugal the man, right?
Yeah, Mr. Portugal.
The band?
No. Unfortunately, it is Portugal, the port-faring country.
Oh, well, I don't care.
And they score a goal. And with that, we're all out of show for the week, but we want to thank our guest, William Tokarsky, for joining us. Thank you so much, William.
My pleasure.
So we hope to have you back on the show very soon. And we hope you'll all join us again as the reels of justice keep turning.
Count it.
Please follow us on Twitter at Reels of Justice, Instagram Reels of Justice, and Facebook.com/Reels of Justice.